this house about 4 months ago, and we've been working on it ever since, trying to get moved in. Still have a few things to do, but it's coming along. But you didn't tune in to hear me complain about my problems. What I actually like to tell you about is a new YouTube channel I've got coming up. I call it Great Grandpa's Tool Chest. And I got interested in woodwork years ago. I've always been interested in it. Used to watch Roy Underhill on the Woodwright Shop. He seems to be a fine man. It's a good program. And he has some books out that are good also. But I watched other YouTube channels, and I'll tell you about them as we go along. But my interest in hand tool woodwork kind of took a back seat for a long time. I've got a fine electric shop, all kinds of equipment, not much I can't do, and I really used to do a lot of woodwork that way, but boy, every time I turn on an electric tool, my brain goes crazy, and I keep seeing dollar signs going to the electric company. And I like the electric company, but I'd like to keep a few of my dollars, so I decided to go with hand tools. And besides that, you know, I've never seen anybody cut a finger off with a handsaw. This thing will take a finger off in a heartbeat. So I decided to do a lot more with hand tools. I started looking around, and boy, you can sink a lot of money into hand tools in a hurry. And I'd like to keep a few of my dollars, and bad enough the way it is. But so I started looking around at different places, see if I can find out how to make my own tools. I knew you could make them. So I got to looking around. I stumbled on a website, James Wright, on Wood by Wright. It's a very good channel. He makes several tools on there. Found him interesting. Paul Sellers is another one that I stumbled up on. Paul Sellers makes good tools, and it's an interesting program. John Heights, his channel is called I Build It. And he makes some tools there that you can use for hand tools. Now he has basically an electric shop, but that's all right. He builds a lot of tools that you can use, and there's a lot of information that you can use. And there were other websites as well, but those are my three favorites, I believe. But there was something missing. I mean, even with these three, none of them had a complete program on how to completely fill a tool chest with hand tools. In fact, the three of them together was still incomplete. So I started looking on the internet, I started looking on YouTube, I started looking in books, trying to find out how to build tools, and reading about the history of woodworking tools, which in itself is very interesting, very interesting. Historically, a few things I noticed is the handsaw. Handsaw is basically unchanged for 3,000 years. The only difference is back in the time of Christ and even before, when they had a handsaw, it cut on the pull stroke. Modern handsaws cut on the push stroke. And it wasn't until the mid-1700s that metallurgy became good enough that they could build stiff enough and good enough plates for the handsaw to be able to cut on the push stroke. Even in the Orient today, they still use pull stroke saws, and a lot of people are getting into them here in this country. I tried them. I didn't like them, but that's what makes the world go around. You might give one a try, you might like it. I can actually cut faster by a long shot with my push strokes than I could with the pull strokes that I bought. Anyway, more information historically. About the lathe. How long you reckon the lathe's been around? My goodness. Did you realize that there are hieroglyphs on Egyptian tombs of woodworking lathes, wood lathes? The only big difference then was they used a vertical, on those hieroglyphs, they used a vertical spindle instead of horizontal like we do today. And they'd set that spindle up, and a man back here put a rope around it, he'd pull the rope back and forth this way. And as the rope turned one way, the turner could actually cut, but as he went back the other way, the wood was going the wrong direction to cut. So the turner could only cut when he's pulling the right direction. They moved from that to there's several types of lathes. Spring pole was another one, but it was the same way. All lathes were pretty much the same way. They would turn the right direction but only half of the time. Then in 1480, I believe it was, 1480, about Leonardo da Vinci invented the continuous turning lathe, where the lathe would actually turn the right direction all of the time. Now you could turn it backwards if you wanted to, but it would turn the right direction all the time. It was operated by a foot pedal that you put your foot on and push down. And I actually built one along that line. His had a huge wheel on it, fly wheel on it, thing 4 or 5 feet in diameter. Mine didn't have one near that size. But, and his fly wheel was hooked directly to the spindle. I made a smaller fly wheel and then used a belt up to the spindle. But basically the same as his, other than that. A lot of things, the difference between a carpenter and a joiner, for instance. A carpenter built houses. That's all a carpenter did, was build houses. The joiner would build furniture, he'd build cabinets, he'd build boxes, he'd build whatever you needed in the house. But, well, actually, I guess what it boiled down to is the carpenter built the house and the joiner filled it. And there are a lot of other very interesting things in woodworking history. What about the egg beater saw, or egg beater drill? I think a lot of you have seen them little things, a term like the old egg beater. And if you wanted to drill a hole up until the early 1800s in this country, you had to get out a brace and a bit, and you drilled a hole that way. But in the late 1700s, somebody in Europe somewhere designed the egg beater. And the egg beater showed up in this country in 1813 in catalogs, and it wasn't long after that, all the joiners had egg beaters. And hot on the heels of the egg beater drill was the chest drill. Chest drill is an egg beater on steroids. It had, instead of a handle on the top that you would turn or hold this way, it had a plate on the top. You put that plate on your chest. If you're drilling a hole here, you turn that crank and you can push with your chest. If you've got one down there, you can push it with an arm or with your chest. And I put them on my stomach quite a bit, but I got a lot there to push with. And but they were interesting. And the brace, like I mentioned a little bit ago, they were wood. And in the middle 1800s, they started making them out of steel. And not long after that, they put a ratchet on them. And that's what they look like today. Today's modern brace is the design on it's 150 years old or so. But it's all interesting. But what I really want to do is learn how to make tools. And I found a few books here and there that had a little bit of information on it. I found a little information in this book, a little in that book, and I found one really good book that was actually written 1950s or 60s, I'm not sure. I'd have to go look at the copyright date on it again, don't remember, but it was written for third world nations so that those nations could actually build the tools they needed. It's a pretty good book. I get a lot of information out of that one and refer to it frequently when I'm building tools. Anyway, all of that leads up to this. I picked a date, 1840, which would have been about the time my great-grandpa would have had a chest full of tools, and I want to build the tools that great-grandpa may have had in his tool chest. Actually, my great-grandfather wasn't a carpenter, he was a blacksmith and a gunsmith. So he didn't have those, but if he had been a woodworker, these are the tools he would have had. Thus the name Great-Grandpa's Tool Chest. We'll get going. I originally had the idea in mind to put out a video a week, but the last few days I've been thinking about that, and boy, I'd like to get this video on, and then I've come up with 5 tools that are relatively easy to make, and I have a goal right now of putting on 5 more tools in the next 10 days. We'll see whether I can make that or not. I have 2 or 3 reasons to do it. James Wright on his channel is having a tool build-off right now. I want to get involved in that. Who knows, maybe win something. But, and I want to know that I want to get the tools out, the information out to you. I always feel like we need to share whatever information we have. I know at one time machinist told me how to do something. He said, don't you tell anybody. He said, I don't share this with anyone. I thought, what a shame. You know, a lot of people could use that information. And I haven't shared it with anyone either. Told him I wouldn't. But anyway, I want to get this information to you so you can build your tool chest, and you'll be able to build your tool chest a whole lot cheaper than what you'd have to spend if you went out and bought them. I hope that covers about everything. Some of the things we'll be making, we'll be making several styles or types of squares, and some of them ain't even going to be square for that matter. Several types of planes. We'll be making some small ones and some big ones, 2 or 3 in between. There'll be winding sticks. There'll be all kinds of things that the scratch stock. It's interesting. All types of other woodworking things that we can build and use and do it ourselves. And then when we finish a project, I not only built the project, I built the tool. That's going to be fascinating, and I think it's a great feeling when I can do that. And I know you will too. Well, thanks for dropping by. I'll see you in a couple of days with the first video, maybe 5 in the next 10. We'll see. Thanks again. God bless.